Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and we're just going to take a little look here and give an engine perspective on Game 8 of the World Championship match between Magnus Carlsen and Jan Nepomniachtchi. So, really want to focus on the opening moves and the moves before move 10 really, which is where the game took a less theoretical course and more a practical course, which of course Magnus handled brilliantly. The opening began, it was a Petrov, e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6 and d4. Quite interesting, this is Leela's first choice, so if you let it analyse the opening. Knight e4, bishop d3, knight e5, knight d7, a main choice. I think it was Leela's second choice. Yeah, that, those sort of things, they can depend a little bit on how long you let the engine run for, of course. And knight d7, bishop d7, knight d2, and it is quite amazing. I mean, there are 1,800 games on the move castles, and well, just 40 in my database on knight d2. 4 very old correspondence games, no engine games at all. So yeah, I mean, very, very, very interesting. And the intriguing thing about it was actually that I mean, Jan played his next couple of moves pretty quickly. But actually, Leela is not actually recommending to take on d2. So it wants to, well, really kill that symmetry straight away and play a move like f5, which is, not bad at all. It's a perfectly decent move, but it just sort of shows really that maybe knight d2, it looks very even, it looks very symmetrical, but there's maybe more to it than that. If the super strong engines think that that f5 is a pretty sensible move. So knight takes d2, bishop takes d2. And now this move, bishop d6. I mean, queen e7 check is really the real natural move to try here with black, especially in the Petrov, where you're always looking to exchange off queens along that e file. Yeah, I mean, my engines seem to be fairly happy with this sort of no castling chess kind of approach. Just h4, just keep get some space on the king side. You can also try and gain some space on the queen side as well. And maybe not easy for for black to create very much. I mean, of course, it's pretty even, but there might be just a little edge for white there. Bishop d6, yeah, makes things a bit more interesting. And here Magnus castled, and yeah, and now Jan went all in, you could say, with h5. I mean, it's a very reasonable move, and you see this h5 idea just to stop queen h5. You see it in many different openings. I mean, there's even some lines of 1b3 where you do exactly the same. So I can quite understand that that this move seemed attractive. I mean, you do sort of wonder somehow whether Jan had prepared it, because the lines that we're going to show you are very sharp. But they are preparable, so yeah, maybe could well be that Jan had prepared something a little bit sharper. Yeah, I mean, apart from that, what other moves are possible? I suppose, yeah, bishop e6 is perhaps the most solid of all the options. I mean, you're simply going to try and castle, or castle queenside in actual fact, get your king over to safety. There are even some delicious lines where Leela was just playing king d7, just to castle artificially and then get its queen going. Quite interesting, but that was also a possible move. But h5, I mean, it's sharp, but one of the things, of course, in these sort of symmetrical positions, you do have a reasonable amount of leeway with black. So a slightly aggressive, loosening move like that, it's not going to be fatal straight away. I mean, here Magnus played queen e1. What I'd really like to look at is, well, the sharpest options at this point, which were all to do with c4. I mean, all very logical, certainly to classical players. You sort of think black's doing something a little bit odd on the wings, strike in the centre. So let's have a look at that line. The first thing is you've got to get the move order right. Rook e1 check is sort of obvious, you know, king f8, c4. Just make the king move first of all and then get c4 in. But in actual fact, here black can play queen h4, threatening queen h2, g3 and queen d4. And after bishop c3, play queen g4. And this is not at all bad for black, really. You know, bishop e2, I come back to g6. I mean, I'm threatening h4 and stuff. And if you go queen d5, I go bishop c6. This is quite typical Petrov, really, you know. And h4 is coming in, so actually my engine's just wanted to exchange off queens here. But what we can do, in order to play this c4 idea, we've got to be a little bit more subtle about it. And we've got to play the move c4 straight away. What's the difference about this? Well, after queen h4, we go g3, queen d4, bishop c3, queen g4, and now we can play queen takes g4. And you'll notice, because the king's still on e8, the g7 pawn is not defended. Now, I was not succeeding in finding a good continuation for black. Takes, bishop takes g7, rook h5 was what I wanted to try. Felt a bit smelly, but I thought it might work. But my engine showed me this lovely idea. King d8, takes, bishop c4, threatening the pawn on f7, so rook f5 is the only move to defend it, and then bishop e2, and it's really difficult to defend this g-pawn. Maybe impossible. After rook g5, I've got bishop f6 check, and after a move like, for example, rook a5, I can go bishop f6 check, king c8, and bishop takes g4, and I'm just threatening rook e8 check. So, and of course takes, I take here, and then go rook takes a8. So, yeah, I mean, that's already big danger. Now, I mean, bishop g4 is probably the best. We go bishop takes g7, rook g8, rook e1 check, king d7, bishop c3, d takes, c4 takes. And, yeah, I mean, this is quite, I mean, this is the sort of thing that I'd assess as a slight advantage for white. Rook e4 here, just a better pawn structure. But yeah, I mean, in some of my engine games, white was actually managing to convert this to a win. You know, somehow getting some rook endings where you win this pawn, and then you know, maybe one pawn over there, and then the kingside pawns are faster. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely not pleasant for black. So after c4, the best move is d takes c4, and then we can throw in the sneaky rook e1 check just before we take back. So king f8 is the best now. We just make sure that we you know, force the king to a slightly weaker square. Bishop e6, we can just go bishop takes c4, and there's a weird point to this one. We can again try this idea with queen h4, and I was thinking originally that that this might actually be decent for black. No, king f7, queen b3 is extremely unpleasant. There's a rather nasty discovered check happening. But I thought maybe king d7 would be nice, because after all, you know, the pawn on h5 is covering anything like queen g4. But yeah, the pawn on h5 is covering queen g4, but it's also allowing rook g6, and this is very unpleasant. The rook's attacking g7. We're just going to go bishop e3 or bishop e3, and then swap off the queens, and then g7's going to be a target. For example, rook f8, bishop e3 takes, rook h7, bishop d4, threatening the pawn on g7. And if you go rook f7, then I go bishop e5, and I'm winning the d6 pawn. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty just pretty good for white, basically. So after rook e1, king f8 has to be played, bishop takes c4, and now there are, you know, a few kind of confusing lines for white. Queen f6 is black's best, I think, here. Queen h4 though looks a bit scary, because we're attacking h2 and d4. And actually, the best line that white's got is to play queen f3. Yeah, it feels a bit odd to allow you to take on h2, but the key point is if queen h2, king f1, it's actually impossible to defend the f7 square. It is just absolutely not working. Bishop e8 is one idea, and then I just take, check, king there, bishop e6, and we're just going to have very, very soon queen to d7 and checkmate. So, yeah, I mean, this is just really, really bad for black. I mean, you can actually play a move like bishop h2 check, king f1, queen f6, but this is pretty dodgy. what Stockfish wanted to do now actually was to take and go g3, just trap that bishop on h2, bishop h3 check, king e2, and yeah, not easy at all, not easy at all. I mean, this was a line that I got several times in the game, and Stockfish, oh sorry, bishop e6 first of all. Stockfish managed to win this, you know, several times here. Bishop f4, h4, rook h1. There's the bishop's attacked, and there's going to be a little pin along the h file. Rook e8 check, king d3, takes, and rook h8 check, followed by rook takes e8. Yeah, not an easy one to win, this one, you know, because all the pawns are on one side. But Stockfish managed it a couple of times against Revenge, which is a strong machine, strong engine. So yeah, you know, probably you can really make something of this. Of course, you know, whatever you say, it's not tempting, but it's kind of a scary line, you know, really, when you see that this h2 pawn is going. But actually, you know, concretely, it doesn't make those threats are actually not worth very much. So I mean, queen f6 is black's best here. You know, just defending the f7 pawn, attacking the d4 pawn, and generally providing a bit of cover to the king. And now white's best is to play queen b3. And I didn't really grasp, you know, the full power of this move until I started trying to find some extra moves. I mean, you know, white's threatening queen takes b7. Only, you know, it's not 100% clear that that's a real threat. Because, for example, if we play h4, which will turn out to be the move I want to look at, if queen takes b7, then there's bishop c6, and queen c6 allows bishop h2. So, and you know, you don't mind giving up the b pawn if you're getting your bishop, you know, pointing towards the white king with tempo. You know, that's really strong. So actually, you don't need to defend this pawn. And that's quite a good job, because if you were to try and defend it with a move like b6, you've got this great idea, bishop g5, really nice. Yeah, you know, it was this actually. You know, I'd put b6 in as one of the moves for a series of engine matches that I ran from various positions. And I saw bishop g5, and I had to blink a couple of times before I realised that queen takes g5 is met by queen f3, hitting a8 and f7. Very, very nice tactic. So, I mean, actually, the all-time risky queen d4 is not at all bad. I mean, the best that I found in this was to play this position, which is slightly uncomfortable for black. You know, that king is sort of caught in a crossfire, but after a move like rook e8, you know, you should be able to extricate yourself from that and just, you know, have a slight disadvantage, but nothing really serious. So that's actually quite interesting. The move that the engines really wanted to play, though, was this aggressive move h4. So queen takes b7, bishop c6, we've already seen. So rook e3 was an interesting idea, just to play rook f3 and attack the f7 pawn. And then we've got this idea, rook h5. Very, very nice. Just going to bring the rook, well, to block on f5. So, yeah, I mean, what we were looking at, there was a great game between Revenge and Stockfish. This was rook f3, rook f5, queen takes b7, rook e8, takes. I mean, I think, you know, just looking at this position, and I'm sure that Jan would have enjoyed this a lot more than what he got in the end. You know, this would be right up Jan's street, I think. You know, very, very dangerous player with the initiative. Queen takes a7, h3, and yeah, to be honest, you know, for an engine, you know, they'll find a way of neutralizing, but for a human player, this is quite unpleasant. Yeah, I mean, my engine game went rook e1, bishop d7, which I don't understand particularly well, to be honest. Takes. Yeah, still threats a bit everywhere here. And, well, queen a8, queen takes d4, bishop b5, tactics, always tactics, queen e5, takes was the position that I got in my game between Revenge and Stockfish. And, well, Stockfish held this quite comfortably. You're a pawn down. Opposite coloured bishops, it's not always clear, you know, opposite coloured bishops, but I think certainly with the queen's exposed white king that yeah, you'd be fairly sure that you could that you should really be holding this. And yeah, it's a slight disadvantage for black, but Stockfish held this quite well. So yeah, I mean, it's quite an interesting little thing, really. I mean, c4 is quite dangerous. Obviously, if black is well prepared, then you're going to survive this. You'll know those accurate moves: d takes c4, king f8, queen f6, and then this lovely move h4. That you'll survive that fine. If you had to work this out over the board, would actually be quite tricky. But it seems that that Magnus, from the white side, he couldn't really work it out to his satisfaction at the board, and so he played the really psychological move queen e1 check, and queen e7 would have been very, very even, but Jan played king f8, and the rest is history. But very interesting game, very interesting opening there, and in fact I think testament to the team of Magnus, who found something. The Petrov's not easy to find something against, and on move 7 already, in a major line, they found something that that not only that looked innocuous, but it was actually a lot more dangerous than it looked, and that's a hell of an achievement. So brilliant. I hope you enjoyed that video. Just give a like or subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this, and hopefully see you with the next video.